Welcome to the Christian Leadership and Resilience podcast, where faith meets leadership. And resilience is more than just a mindset, it's a calling. I'm Romeo Al-Char.
And I am Christina Agaibi, and we're here to guide you through real conversations that equip you to lead fearlessly, serve humbly, and rise strongly, no matter the challenges ahead.
Every episode, we dive into stories, principles, and practical tools rooted in Scripture and lived experience to help you grow as a Christian leader.
Hello, and welcome back to our Christian Leadership and Resiliency podcast. In the last session, we talked a little bit about fear and how we need to push through fear to get to the other side of fear in order to be more resilient. And that fear is a part of the story sometimes that we experience when we go through hardships. And it's meant to get us to pause and to think. But ultimately, we want to push past the fear in order to get to a resilient kind of mindset. Today, we will continue our discussions on what helps us to be more resilient from a faith-based perspective, as well as from a scientific resilient perspective. And today, we're going to be focusing on the power of vision. And so sometimes when there is fear, we don't have this vision to see beyond the struggle. So the point of today is to discuss the power of vision and not to get stuck on the focus or on the present problem, but rather to focus on future possibilities. And that is the most important part of resilience, is to be able to see wider than just the problem that we're in now. And there's obviously biblical perspectives on this. There are perspectives on vision, for example, from Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And of course, as leaders, as business owners, as employees, as parents, and everything else, we want to lead people with vision and with resilience. So with that said, Romeo, nice to see you again. And today we're going to be discussing vision. And I know you have so many powerful stories about this, so why don't you let us know about those?
Yeah, good morning, Christine. And yeah,
Good morning.
the vision is so powerful, but sometimes we don't realize it. We just rely a lot on seeing things instead of having things as a vision. And that's what blocks us from progressing in our lives. And that is crucial to learn and to understand. But things doesn't go in the easy way. This old proverb that says, like, in French, it's like, world is not full of roses. Life is not full of roses. That's typically how it is. There is a lot of thorns, and there is a lot of wind. There is a lot of struggle and hardships that we encounter this our lives. But we need to have the vision so we can see beyond what's happening now, beyond the moment, because the moment, it's where the incident happens. It's where the struggle happens. And for me, I had something that I had no expectations for it, and nobody was prepared for it. And that's where everything started. I was in Lebanon. I was a young kid. I was around 3 years old. And it was around mid-70s. So we had some turbulences in the country. It was the beginning of the Civil War. So we had to go to our village and stay at my grandparents' house. So I was, enjoying life, discovering everything. Nature in the village is so beautiful. It's early summer, so you can see everything like shining. Everything is green, flowers, the mountains, the sky is so clear. I can remember these, like I have snapshots about everything. And it was so beautiful. I don't know how I still remember these snapshots, but they are there. So I went and to play outside. Kid 3 years old. What do you want? What do you expect? Want to play? play around and have fun, enjoy the everything that can be used to make the time pass. So I walked outside. I went behind our house, and there was another friend that he was a little bit bigger than myself, and we started to play around, and we said we need to make this more exciting. We need some action. So we decided to play robbers and cops. And when you don't have good leadership decision making, so you think you go for the wrong curves. So I decided to be the robber. I don't know why, but at that time we said okay, but let's get some weapons. So we crafted from a bow and an arrow. So we took one of a branch, like to create the bow, and we used a fishing line so we can make the bow at perfect curve. And we got a another branch, we use it, which is dry one, to use it as the arrow, and we work on the head of the arrow and the back of the arrow. So we had the time to craft a good piece. But still, we are so young, so perfecting something like that is not easy. But as you know, life has its own surprises. So I was standing facing the other kid, and I said to him, "Hey, try to shoot me if you can." So, and I was a little bit distant. I was not so close. So we were laughing, and I was like, with all my pride and ego, standing there, that it wouldn't hit me. The arrow, the bow won't work. That's what he had in our mind. Then he just, he just took his position, aimed at me, and I was still laughing, having a big smile, and he launched the arrow. And Christine, you won't believe what happened. It's like the arrow went straight forward and hit my eye. So that was in a fraction of a second. All the smiles that I had and all the laugh that I had turned into a nightmare. The pain was tremendous, and I couldn't bear to stay on my feet, so I had to go down on my knees. And I couldn't feel anything because I was so in pain in my head. And literally, what happened? It just so the arrow hit the eye, and it fell down. And I was holding my eye, and I was screaming, crying. So it was a big mess. So my mom and my sister, they were preparing for dinner. It was in late afternoon, and they ran outside. And my mom, she saw me on the ground holding my head where my eye is, and she saw the arrow. So she knew that something bad happened. And she held me in her arms. I said, "It's okay, honey. Don't worry. Everything will be okay." But she knew. She knew that things are not going to be okay. But she had to protect at least me emotionally and psychologically. So she was trying to do her mom thing. And it worked, actually. And then all I can remember that they took me to the operating room, so to the hospital. So I had an urgent surgery. So and it ended by I lost the sight on the spot. So when the arrow hit the eye, it just destroyed the retina, and everything was smashed. It's not there anymore. So the shock that destroyed the sight, and it's a non-recover. So you cannot recover anything. It's just done, unrecoverable thing. And that's where my life, my new phase of life started unexpectedly, unplanned, and that was something that I had to bear it all my life. And after the operation, at that time, even for nowadays, there was like a deformation in the eye, so it's not anymore like they look the same. So I become the kid with the eye. So I had an eye that is bluish, whitish, something like that. So it was, and it was a little bit bigger than the other one. So I looked different. With that, everything went normal. I mean, normal that I was living with my parents. I was the kiddo, so the youngest. So everyone was treating me like everything is good, everything is normal. And I was growing up in my neighborhood, and my neighborhood used to me as I was. So there was no conflict, nothing is happening. So until I reached the age of 12ish, 13, something like that. So it's when you start as a boy, you need to go out, find a girlfriend, to love and be loved and all that thing. And that's where I start to encounter the other part. So the first part was the physical scar. But after that, I had my emotional scar. And that was even worse because the first one I'm used to it. So all my mechanical muscles, looks, how my head movements, all were adjusted to the situation. But emotionally, I was not prepared for that. I didn't know that it's gonna hit so bad. So when I started to think about going outside, meeting a new girl or to have a girlfriend, and it's where your identity is being shaped. That's where the bigger hit that I got. I was rejected. I was considered a weird kid because my look was not okay. It was different. I was different. And kids, they don't expect to see things like that and to understand what's going on or what happened or how to treat such situation and how to deal with that person. They don't know. As simple as that. Because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was not prepared for it.
Mhm.
And that's where the second part of my suffering started. And I became the I with a kid. So each time I log into a place, everybody stared at me. So was it me or was the I? So 99% was the I. And that put me in very uncomfortable situation. So kind of I was pushed back and being isolated, and I felt even sometimes I was bullied verbally about, oh, look to his eye, yee, yay. So I was able to hear those things, and I didn't react. I knew I looked different, and I couldn't do anything about it. But I was suffering a lot because people wasn't were not able to see me, to see who am I, to see my heart. They were not able to see through, and they were always like stuck at the eyesight level, and that's where I had to live with that for a long time. So that's the major thing where I lost the sight in one of my eyes. So I lost an eye, literally.
What an incredibly powerful story and journey to where you are today, from a young child that was in severe physical pain, having to go through a major surgery at that age, having to deal with that, and then having to be kind of almost like an outcast amongst your peers. And it also teaches us, in addition to the resilience that comes out of this, that we do need to be kind to people that are different and may not be what the average person looks like, but we all have, an importance to us. And your story will show that as we talk about it more, that you did lose an eye, and people saw you as different, but you have so much to offer in the field of resilience, in the field of leadership. And like you said, you're not seen. And one of the most important gifts that we have is to be seen as human beings and to be loved and cared for and appreciated anyway. Even when we have challenges, especially when we have challenges. And what an important kind of concept for leadership, that we see the talents in people beyond just what meets the eye, no pun intended, but just beyond what meets right in front of us. There's depth to people. There's things that we have to see beyond the surface, and not just judge people based on what we see externally. And there's even verses about that God sees the heart, while other people may see stature or wealth or whatever the word is, or whatever the concept is. There's much more depth to that. And there's so much more depth to you, which is showcased in your resilience as you grew up and traveled and immigrated and moved to different countries and did different things. It's amazing. So there's so much more to us, I think, that we need to focus on. So, but people don't focus on that. So, what are some obstacles for people that prevent people from seeing deeper?
First of all, we have, there is the present moment. It has its own weight. And we cannot overcome this on the spot. It takes time to reflect, to see, to meditate, to check what's going on. So we need to give ourselves a break. So when things happens, the age, it has its own limitations, and we need to have experience in life. But it's sometimes most of the times actually, we lose the vision. We don't see beyond. And the thing that happened with me, that situation put me in more depth to look more to people, to search, like, it's to read between the lines, because that's where I was. I had a lot of things happening between the lines, but no one didn't care enough, or didn't have the knowledge, or to just look somewhere, like, what's going on, who's that guy. I had few in my life that they always were there. I'm thankful to God about those people, because they helped me to move on, to always see myself that I was accepted. But I couldn't realize what's happening. I couldn't see it because I was really going into hardship. I was overwhelmed with situations, because that I was living those moments. I was beaten up, with all the looks, with all the criticism, with all the rejection, with all the judgment on how I looked. So that it's hard. It's hard to develop the vision there. It took me time to start seeing, but I had a very big anchor that ever changed everything in my life, and that was the faith. I'm thankful to God that as a Christian, and I lived in a very religious Christian family. Very religious. That means we go by, we are like living our Christian values. And I was blessed by that family because I was raised on those values. And when you start living the values of Christianity, you have an open heart. You rely on love, and you know that God is made of love, and He won't do that to a kid like myself, to just harm him or to let things bad happens to him. But because we live in this world, we know that it's not a perfect world. So that's what was happening in my mind. That's what gave me hope about, even with the loss of my eye, there should be something out there for that eye. And it's like I knew that I was missing something, but I didn't know what. But I learned by the years that when things occur today, something will come out from it later on. And since God is good, I know that this is going to turn to something good, useful. And that's exactly what happened. Even that it took me years to figure this out and to overcome this. And one of the biggest stages of, processing all that, it was when I moved from Lebanon to the States. It's where I got the time to assess, to reflect, to understand what happened in my life. And then I discovered the skills that it was built. And when I started digging more and more about what are those skills, what I am having, what is this? And I discovered resiliency. And I discovered that resiliency came through faith. That was the major anchor. And that's something that gave me vision about what I'm going to do in my life and what's my life purpose. And everything fell in the right place. So all the pieces came all together, all the incidents, all the personal things, and even professional ones. It all made sense. I have like this clarity. So vision is not something we ask for it. It happens. And it takes time to be able to see the vision. Because sometimes things are in front of our eyes, but we don't see them. And that's where you need the vision and you need the hope and you need the faith to believe that something good is going to happen, and believe me, it's going to happen. So that's the power of vision.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is so beautiful and so true. So it sounds like ultimately one of the obstacles or barriers to having vision is that we want everything to happen and to unfold now. And even the resilience research will talk about perseverance and the importance of having perseverance in order to be resilient, to keep going, to savor and to sit and reflect, like you're talking about, in order for that resilience to unfold. It isn't something that appears immediately after the incident. And I can relate to that from my own story of losing my dad. Initially, I was an outcast too. I was the only kid in my church or in my neighborhood that didn't have a dad. And so it was very strange. For a lot of people, didn't know what to do with me, didn't know where to place me. But again, you keep persevering day after day after day. And much like you, I had the same experience of this must have a purpose. This must have, and to glean meaning out of that situation, I think is really what gives that vision and that importance is there has to be a purpose for this. And I may not discover it right away. And yes, it is painful. But this is kind of, again, to go back to leadership. How do leaders develop that God-centered vision if things are not going as well as they want in that moment? If they don't know how to glean the different strengths out of their team? So what is the biblical perspective on leadership and being able to see beyond the present moment, beyond the superficial in their team, beyond what they're seeing, what's right in front of them?
Well, biblically, there is a lot of stories that it's there that it explained this. And that's the power of belief. That's the power of faith. We can start by Abraham, who became later on Abraham. Sorry. It started there, actually. So God appeared to him and he talked to him. And then he had this voice like, go and leave and go to the promised land, and I would give you what you need, the land, the children. And that was very important at that, during that time, especially for Abraham. So he knew that there is something beyond. And he believed in it. He had faith in God. And he left that place where he was secured. And he had his very successful businesses. And he took all his cattle and his people, his servants, and left. He left. And the journey, if you're familiar with the Middle East, it's not a joke. It's not like he's going like from Maine to Houston like I did. It was from Ur in Iraq to the Promised Land. And that was a huge, very risky journey. And during that travel, he has to encounter so many beasts, so many tribes, and he can get, killed even. But God didn't spoke to him during all his journey. Still, he had faith, and he believed that something good is going to come out from it. And look where we are today with Abraham. So we need to have that faith and to see beyond just our current situation. And as we see now, like Abraham, he's a man of faith, but also he's a businessman. And he was able to see the opportunity that God was giving it to him, that there is a promised land, that it will give you abundance, you're going to be da. So the whole thing was a very positive thing. And that's what faith is all about, is having hope and believing in the better future if we rely on God. And that's exactly what happened to me. And if we go and, there is a lot of story that happened in my life that can prove how things goes with the resiliency that was built during my growth, during my hardship. And one of them, it's where I was a partner in a company that we used to deal with electromechanical supply for construction projects, and all our work was for Nigerian construction projects. And I was located in Lebanon handling all the operations. And my two partners were in Nigeria dealing with getting projects and the whatever, all the information so we can secure the deals. And I was doing all the job from Lebanon. And as it's a hub between West and East, Europe, the state, whatever. So with that, because of the resiliency that was built during my hardship, because I developed through my hardship a way to overcome the challenges that I had in my life and to accept things and to embrace the scar. And okay, I learned not to stop at the eye level, that I have a destroyed eye, I have a different look. I learned not to stop there. So later on, I was equipped with the skills of adaptation and flexibility, positivity, hope, self-confidence. So they were built up within me during those years of agony. Even that it was agony, like the journey from Ur
Mm-hmm.
to Israel, it was also built within me the same skills somehow. So it's a common thing. It's a universal thing. It's not something just typically to me. This is my story, but look to your story. And anyone outside listening to this, think about your story. What's your story? What did happen to you? And how you are taking that story, that learning curve, and how your resiliency was built. And you will discover that you have a superpower that you may not using it properly because you're afraid. So you have to believe. You have to have faith in yourself and God and the circumstances, everything. So you can just go forward. And if we go back to that example of on a professional level, how resiliency that was built from a physical and emotional scar, it just helped me tremendously in my professional life. So I was preparing for a deal for around $8.5 million. So planes were coming from to get the cargo from Lebanon and back to Nigeria, and that was a big shipment. And I was sipping my coffee, and I just received a flash news on the TV. That's where you usually start your day to check the news, that the war erupted between Lebanon and Israel. That was on July 12th, 2006. And I cannot believe what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. But seeing is believing. I was like, what the hell is going on? No, not today. And the flights were like coming. So I had two options: let go and stop everything, and that will lead to a tremendous losses for everyone. The planes are in the air. The cargo is stacked. Letter of credit opened and dealt with. Everything was paid, and there's a lot of fees for that. So I need to do something. So I couldn't let go and stop everything. But there is all the flights in Lebanon Air, that it just was crippling all the transportation. Bridges were shut down. Literally, they just so anyway. So it was war. I had to deal with it. So I was able to just get that around the problems and figure out how to solve the whole situation. So I just started by getting to my shipping agent. So we shifted everything to the Damascus airport. So, and we informed the shipping company that dealing with the flights, so they go to land in Syria, where in at the Damascus International Airport, so they can wait there for the goods. I assembled the goods. I give instructions to the truck drivers that everything you load, you don't cover it. If it's a box, because you have to put something on the goods when you're shipping it from one place to another. So nothing. Just keep everything clear. So if anyone wants to check on what is moving on these trucks, they can see from, because there was like all the drones are screening everything. So if they can see what's moving, they won't hit it. If they will know it's not risky. And we had pipes, we had so many things that it can be confusing as rockets or as rocket launchers. So we wanted to make sure that everything is clear and they can see it. And I increased the insurance and I just gave the instruction to go. And everything, we were able to ship all the goods by land from Lebanon to Syria and then loaded up with the agent in Syria, and then it went back to Nigeria. So that's the power of resiliency. It's not only in your personal life, but it is also executed and used in your professional life, because that needs a lot of like decision making and fast and have a problem solving skills, how to manage different teams, different team members, and different organizations. So it was a huge operation under severe circumstances. The bridges were blown out, destroyed completely. So that was so risky. But thank God we managed everything and saved the deal. So that's how it is important to have resiliency, and how it is important to have it in for the leaders, and to be executed, to be used and nourished, so you can use that later on in your professional life. So look, all the people that they are in leadership positions, that's how they act. They go and they see things beyond. They have the vision. They have this, a leverage about seeing things that people usually they cannot see, or they don't see beyond the present moment. And that's the gift of resiliency that was nourished within, to make me able to make those decisions and change everything on a professional level.
Absolutely. Again, what a powerful story. And in this one, you have to make decisions quickly. So sometimes resilience is about perseverance and seeing the far away road, and taking that long road. And sometimes you have to make decisive decisions on the spot that could impact a lot of things in a short amount of time, and to make as little damage in that situation as possible. The takeaway is that the visionary leaders always see beyond obstacles. Whether it is in the short term and I have to make a quick decision right now, but I'm relying and trusting God that He's behind me, and also trusting my own experiences and my own discernment, my own wisdom in that situation, to be able to make a quick decision like that would impact a lot of people and still come out strong at the end. So ultimately, it's trusting that God has a bigger plan, and that regardless of what happens, all things work together for good in the end for those that love God and are called to His purpose. So what daily practices do you think that we can use to help us stay focused on that long-term impact, even if we have to make a quick decision, or if it is something long-term, like having to deal with a loss, my case, the loss of my dad, in your case, the loss of your eye? How can we have daily practices that keep us moving in the right direction, that will ultimately have a good long-term impact?
Well, the mindset is one of them, and it starts by being positive. Being the positivity is something that it's so important in our daily lives. It's a ritual. You choose to be positive or negative. Have a good sense of humor. You know, life is hard already. So why to just make it harder? Go and be good to people around you. Go to, give this light humor a chance to be out there. Laugh, enjoy your time. And it's not only about work. I cherish life in a different way, and maybe because it's
Yes.
about the hardship that I went through. And sometimes we need to be less dramatic and start seeing life from, like, have a positive expectations from life. And we have to believe that we can make changes, but it's not necessary in the moment. Like, I learned with time that, okay, something happened, but okay, what's the lesson, God? So I had to wait. And there's lessons that I waited for a year. And I was like, boom, I got it. Oh my God, that's the lesson. So there is things that we need to wait and to process so we can get it. Because this is the resiliency is not something that happens on the spot. It's built up, it's nourished. And that needs a lot of challenges that we need to encounter so it can grow, so we can it can be nourished and it can be useful to us. So being positive is one of the key elements that I had in my life. I always see the positive side of things. Okay, that might be a little bit risky sometimes because too much of positivity it turns to be negativity. But when you have these things like happening in your life on daily basis, you search for the positive input. Like, I always see the full half of the cup. I always see that. And I always mention this, and I always mention the full half first. I don't mention the empty unless if it's on purpose. And I noticed that several times. And when you are like light person, humble, you just let things to happen to you and you absorb your process and you can just move things forward. And people will be contagious by your smile. And people, so many people said, Romeo, I had a friend of mine, he died a long time ago. He said to me, Romeo, there is something about you which I cannot understand. I know that you're not a rich man, but you're always happy. You always contain things. I have the money, I am rich, and I don't know how you can do that. And unfortunately, that friend died later on because of stress and because of he had failure. And I'm still living, and I'm still smiling to things and to situations, and I keep forging my path, and I'm still moving forward. So that's what I do. That's how I live my life. And everything will come with it. Like, the faith made everything to happen for me. I had to believe that God is good and everything is going to come out good from Him. And that's where the positivity source. That's my secret. And that's what everything moved on based on that hope that I got from God, that He's going to make things good. And by having this belief, I was able to see my worthiness through God's eyes, because God's loved me, and that love, it's an unconditional love. So it's not going to be conditioned by my case, and it's not be conditioned for any case in the world for anyone. It's an unconditional love. So that means the I that I had is not an obstacle. It's just something I need to walk through to understand something bigger so I can have my own life. And that's exactly what happened after 50 years. I understood the whole thing. And now that's what I'm doing. I'm preaching about this. I'm just, sharing that hope, that positivity, that aliveness with others. So see and believe, because that's where everything's laid down. This is the secret. Being hopeful, being positive, being humble, being righteous, and all that is coming from one place. It's God. It's the faith in God, that by having faith in Him, I have the faith in myself, because I'm His beloved, creature. So that's the secret. That's how I always. And one more thing, when you go and make someone else to smile or laugh, you change their day. You change their situation. You just gave them something positive, and and that's just a small thing we do. So imagine if you live your life like that, how you spread positivity into your teams, to your company. Instead of, waking up on the wrong side of the bed, try to get the right one fixed and spread this, because that ripple effect you put there, that positivity, and believe me, it will go through walls and through even countries, because now we are like in a big village. Just be positive and start spreading positivity at all levels, and believe me, it's gonna come back at you with abundance.
Excellent perspective, and like you said, not turning the positive too much into a negative. Um, Also understanding the difficulties and challenges that we've been through, but not to stay there, I think is the key as well. And to live every day with the same principles that you talked about, the Christian principles, integrity and kindness and hope and perseverance and love, most of all. And that helps you to see those things in your team, in the people that you are working with, turning things into a positive. It's about kind of reframing how you look at it, to process it, to think about it, to reframe it, to understand it. So this has been a very enlightening kind of presentation today for our audience, learning more about resilience from the perspective of seeing beyond the obstacles that we are in. Sometimes people feel as if they're consumed by their obstacles. It takes over their world. But again, when you're centered with God in the middle, with Christ in the middle, we know ultimately it will turn for good. It's almost like the blood pressure cuff we get at the doctor. Things close in, close in, close in, and then they release. And in that release, we find so much meaning, so much purpose, so much use to use this to help other people, to create and maintain a vision for our lives, and that turning it over to inspire other people to lead and to reach their fullest potential, which ultimately is what resilience is all about. How to flourish, how to thrive, how to reach your full potential. And not that there's no difficulties. We're not putting on rose-colored glasses and pretending there's no difficulties, but then how do we use those difficulties and to turn them into something positive? So thank you, Romeo, for sharing your stories today. I'm sure our audience has learned so much from our podcast already, and we look forward to more and learning more about Christian topics and how to turn them into resilience.
Exactly, exactly. So I hope that, even that those are my stories, but each one of us has his own path, his own stories. Just all I would ask, please give yourself a chance to reflect on your life and see what's in it for you and for others. Because always we have a life purpose that God put it in us. Seek it and put that, seed, the hope, the faith, the positivity in others, and you're gonna be surrounded by a team and by a family that will just give you back a lot.
Absolutely. I think those are powerful closing words. Connect the dots, and you will see where your path guides and leads to more resilience and flourishing. So until next time, reflect on these lessons about the power of vision and fear from the last time, and see where your path is leading you for greater growth and greater resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on the Christian Leadership and Resilience podcast.
If this episode has encouraged you, share it with your friends, leave a review, and stay connected with us on social media.
Next time, we'll dive into another topic that will boost your resilient leadership. Until then,
Lead fearlessly
serve humbly.
and rise strongly in faith.
God bless.